Now I'd like to introduce Barry Helem, who's going to talk about using technology to reunite lost pets with their families, a threefold approach. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Yep. I just thought I'd start by giving a brief overview of the New Zealand Companion Animal Council for those of you that don't know us very well, and I'm conscious I'm the only one standing between you and lunch, so I'll try to be concise. And what? And some chooks. Oh yeah, apparently got some chook chucking, so that'll be fun. So Companion Animal Council, we started off 1990 as a sort of an informal workshop run by SPCA Auckland, and then that sort of morphed into an incorporated society in 1996, and really bringing together like-minded organisations and groups that had a common interest in animal welfare and urban animal management. So in 2006 we had the New Zealand Companion Animal Register established, which is sort of a sub-branch, if you like, of the NZCAC, and that runs the largest New Zealand registrations for microchipping in the country, and also the New Zealand Companion Animal Trust. So basically the fees that come from the microchipping register, after we cover our operating costs, that money goes into a trust to give back to the community and support research, animal groups, rescue shelters, in terms of doing work on behalf of companion animals. In 2015 we had a strategic review, and out of that we have a new executive board. We've got a full-time manager, Dr. Jessica Walker, and a part-time research assistant, and we have a sort of a hybrid organisational structure where we have the formal board and the manager, but we also run informal networks of forums around the country in the major centres. So that's around creating collaborative partnerships with vets, councils, rescue groups in each of the key areas to work together on doing initiatives and sharing good practice, helping out with resource sharing. And so rather than having groups that were perhaps once competing for funds, it's actually now getting them to collaborate together and work together, and it's quite powerful and empowering. So the Companion Animal Register, as I said, that started around 2006. So there are two sort of main microchip databases in New Zealand. One is the National Dog Database, which is run by the Department of Internal Affairs. That was set up in 2005 as under the Dog Control Act to basically allow councils to keep information on dogs registered in the community. And then we have the Companion Animal Register, which is NZCAC, and unlike the National Dog Database, we cater for all species. So quite a difference there. And this gives you an example of what we have at the moment. So well over 500,000 animals in New Zealand, companion animals registered there, quite a variety of species. Actually, there is one missing. We actually have a fish. Now, I'm not sure what side the microchip's implanted on. Probably determines which direction it swims around the tank, because it'd be on a bit of a lean, I would imagine. But yeah, so quite a diverse range. And on average, we probably have 5,000 to 10,000 registrations a month. So quite a large database. So also in addition to that, we provide Scanner Angel, which is sort of a microchip reader which supports that. And we also have the largest number of outlets where a microchip can be scanned, and also we run a 24/7 online access along with 365 days a year 0800 number. So very accessible to the community in terms of identifying animals. So as I mentioned yesterday in my talk on the cat management strategy, the stats around microchipping are pretty compelling, and we had the Christchurch earthquakes in 2011 where I said yesterday 85% of animals were rehomed again in 3 hours back to their owners after coming to the shelter at SPCA, and only 25% of non-microchipped animals made it home after 7 days. So compelling argument why we need to microchip. The Companion Animal Register is used in New Zealand by over 98% of vets, 85% of all councils, SPCAs, other rescue organisations, breeders. There are now 850 locations in New Zealand where an animal can be scanned and checked on the register. So Halo Scanner is a fairly new technology. It's software that was created by the Pet Accessory Workshop in Guernsey. So this adds extra functionality to the Halo scanners and microchip readers that are commonly used throughout New Zealand. So it's a combined package of a smart chip reader, web-based software. I'm reading this, by the way, because I'm not an IT geek. I it's all witchcraft to me, but so I'm having to read all this technical stuff. And designed to help repatriation services identify missing pets quicker. So basically what it does, it synchronises with the companion animal register database, and every time it's plugged in to recharge, it uploads information and then downloads information as well around animals that are reported missing. And also the report that it uploads contains missing numbers that have been scanned since the last recharge. So it's quite an interface that just keeps current all the information around lost animals and repatriating them. And as a double check, it sends alerts every time it's plugged in, a second notification to the register. So at any given time, there are 2,000 to 3,000 animals missing that we're aware of on the register in New Zealand. Okay, the other partnership we have is with Pets on the Net, which is a lost and found website. And so this is almost ready to launch, and basically this will allow an interface between the register and the website, so we can actually share data between the two and thereby make it easier for the public to report lost microchipped animals and have their animal details made available. And so this will be a one-stop registration for both systems, and it will have new features such as pet matching, improved social media promotion, automatic veterinary clinic notification, and lost pet poster generation. And so the portal we'll use for that will be lostpet.co.nz, and so that's going to be the portal for both the companion animal register, Pets on the Net, and also facial recognition technology, which I'll talk about shortly. And the idea is that we'll also extend that to anyone else that wants to sign up and make that basically a free open source register. And so with that, that'll become the largest pet repatriation network in New Zealand. And I'll qualify that by saying we don't actually have any Australian registrations on our register, purely New Zealand only. So, this is getting really cool now. So last year we signed a license agreement with Pit My Pet, which is based in Vancouver, Canada. And this is an application for smartphones, and it uses facial recognition technology to reunite lost companion animals with their families. So this is going to be introduced by us in the later part of this year. We begin testing on the software next month, and we hope to launch, do a soft launch to our registrations on the register by the end of the year. So basically, it'll give us one of the most advanced animal repatriation systems in the world by integrating 3 different forms between the microchip register, the website, and the facial recognition technology. So in the New Zealand version, we won't be using App Store or Google Play. So the reason for that is every time you have to make a change to your software, there's a 3-month wait time before you can do that. Also, they take 30% commission on any of your registration fees. So being an ex-banker, that made me shudder, so we're not doing that. So instead we're going to develop our own software where the app can be downloaded for free from our own website. So we need to be nimble and fast moving. This technology is advancing, and we need to make sure that we can keep up with that going forward and not wait 3 months to make any changes. So it's going to make it a lot easier to integrate with our own services. So what PIP stands for is the positive identification of pet, and refers to a positive match determined by facial recognition between a photo of the registered companion animal and a photo of a found animal uploaded into the system. This sort of shows you a North American example. This is not quite going to be the case in New Zealand. We won't be using social media to start with, and the reason being there's just too many pages out there, and also the likes of Facebook as an index, so whenever you post something it soon dates very quickly. And so the goal is just to get our existing system working first and then look at a social media solution later on. The key difference also with our system is that in America it's within a 15-mile radius. We will open ours to the whole country because, you know, given our small population, there's parts of the South Island where you can drive 15 miles and not even see your neighbour. So we need to extend it across the country, so that's a key difference. So how it works, human faces are all similar, shape and size, well-defined features, eyes, ears, nose, similar variations, skin tone and colour. With pets, they have many more variations in size, colour pattern, shapes, location of features such as eyes, ears, nose and mouth. And this gives you, it's pretty hard to see, but facial recognition has been around for a wee while, and I think Megan mentioned the other day that it's provided pretty poor results. Many false positives and accurate returns, and the best in class really is around 90% accuracy, you can see from there. But with Pit My Pet, they have an accuracy of 99.25%. So now I have no clue what an algorithm is, but apparently they have them, and this solely relates to animals. And what it does, it categorises, extracts the data points based on the variations of pets' faces. So basically it scans hundreds of thousands of photos in a matter of seconds, and it can provide matches to 99.25% accuracy, which is pretty cool. So in the early days it might check 10 points on a face. It's currently now checking 1,000, and in the future thousands of points on a face. So over time, as the technology improves, it'll get more and more accurate, and that's dependent on photo quality improving as well. So how it sort of categorises in terms of the hierarchy is that, first of all, the technology looks at the common global features such as the facial structure and whether the animal's got a long nose or a short nose, and then the next layer down is around specific features in terms of the distance between eyes, nose and ears, etc. So PIP are also committed to continued research, currently researching and developing the next level of this technology. And as I said, you know, photo quality plays a big part, but also increasing the number of recognition points. As I said, currently it's about 1,000, and they want to exponentially increase that as well. And so what we will offer is combining the registration of microchip details and facial recognition. And so the moment an animal goes missing, the owner can activate an alert on their smartphone, and immediately that will notify the register and Pets on the Net and other application subscribers in the area, which may include animal control, animal rescue agencies, veterinarians, independent users. And there's also a Good Samaritan participation function. So, you know, if you have that app, you can just take the photo and upload it if you believe the animal's missing, and it'll come through to the register and it'll do its magic and hopefully match the animals. So really what we're trying to do with this approach is just provide, you know, a really integrated system, because each on their own have their weaknesses, as we probably all realise, but hopefully together, you know, using all three through a single portal, accessing a single database, just make it probably one of the leading repatriation systems in the world. I'll make that bold claim, but that's what we're aiming for. Thanks very much.
Also some answering questions as well. So if I can invite all of our speakers of the day up and to join the panel. We've got some questions lined up already. Is that lost? I was just about to give away Nell's mobile phone. Okay, yes.
Yeah, addressed to whoever would like to answer. We hear of the negative outcome of what can occur when shelters ask people to wait for another day to relinquish their pets. But we also hear that if there isn't a capacity to care, then turning them away is recommended. Placing animals in foster care isn't that much different to releasing them to permanent homes. Why aren't foster homes recruited more, where potentially there would be an endless capacity to care and the words "we are full" wouldn't exist?
I can address capacity for care and managing your intake. So one thing I'd encourage you all to look at, there are lots of webinars available about managed intake. And I think, and we heard a story earlier of the unfortunate situation when you don't help someone who needs help. But managing your intake and capacity for care isn't about not helping people. It's about giving them resources and communicating clearly and honestly. And actually shelters who've implemented managed intake, Erie County SPCA in New York was one of the pioneers in it. Animal Humane in Minnesota is another one, and New York City is doing it now. And what they're doing is they're asking people, can they hold on to that pet longer until they have space? And a lot of people are able to. So that's one thing, is we assume everybody will let that dog go. And what they've actually done, and what they did is followed up on what happened, made an appointment, had them come back later. A lot of those animals had another alternative. I've worked in a shelter, a large volume shelter, that took all animals anytime, open 24 hours a day actually. And a significant percentage of owner surrenders came back and asked for their pet back. And if we had talked to them in the beginning and tried to find them solutions before they turned that pet in, and that we were really, truly the last resort, maybe we would have had more resources. So I think foster care is an excellent thing to leverage as much as you can, absolutely. You want to use every tool in your toolbox, and also have your staff empowered to always be able to help take in that animal. But sometimes we jump to the conclusion that something bad is going to happen, and what the data shows is that that's not always the case. But sometimes we just need to offer people other solutions, and we need to be honest with them about what our ability is. Because most people bringing those animals to you want to do the right thing. They're trying to set them up for success. Not everybody's going to be able to wait, so you want to be there for them, but if they can, that can help, and they can be a part of the solution. It's been really successful in a lot of places. Everybody is skeptical until they try it, and then I will tell you, they're our biggest champions.
Thank you. And we have another question.
Okay, this is for Megan. In regard to dogs surrendered for behavioural problems, do they primarily represent specific age groups?
To be honest, I didn't have a chance to have a look into that. That's certainly something that could be very beneficial to look into, and there's certainly a lot of data. There's a lot of things that I would have loved to have looked at, and I just did not have the space within the study. But that's certainly a very valid point. Certainly, we found that behaviour was a bigger cause for surrender amongst adult dogs as opposed to puppies, and certainly that could partially be to do with behavioural issues are more tolerable, I guess, in puppies. But within each age group, the smaller age groups are not 100% certain, but that's certainly something that could be very valuable to look into in the future. Yeah.
Okay. Can I ask one more question, please?
You can.
Thank you. Again, on behavioural issues, with the dogs that were killed for having behavioural problems, were they behavioural problems that existed when they first came in, or were they behavioural problems that came up during their time in the pound or shelter, or is there any kind of information on that?
I'm not super certain. There was only one or a couple of reasons sort of listed for why they were euthanased, and generally it wasn't said when the behaviour started. There were a few owner requests for euthanasia, and so they possibly could have been to do with behavioural problems, and that was a limitation certainly, in that we weren't able to determine why the owner had requested that. That wasn't listed as part of the data. We did receive also some data as well about how long the dogs spent in the shelter, but that was something that we weren't able to look into, again due to time constraints as well, but that could be something to look into in the future as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And one more question.
My question's also to Megan. Did you have clear evidence that staffies were overrepresented as a breed compared to, say, Labradors, and do you have any insights about that?
We don't have definitive evidence just yet. We looked into the Australian National Kennel Council, but that only focuses on purebred dogs, and not all purebred dogs are obviously registered. So I think they had, off the top of my head, I think it was something like 14% were staffies. Don't quote me on that one, I would have to check it. So no, we don't at present know whether they're overrepresented or not. That was a bit of a limitation there, but there was certainly quite a number in the study.
Compared to, say, like Labradors were not in the same numbers in pounds, or?
I don't know, unfortunately, no. The other thing we did look into...
because it costs a lot of money to go out to the community and do a phone survey to find out so there is no comparison. We can't say whether they're overrepresented or not. And with the behaviour, like we just got a dump of all the data, all these columns and columns and columns of data. So the reason why they were euthanised, the behaviour, was just what was reported. We didn't do any analysis whether there was, because you have to go manually through to see on the intake, and there's just too much work. So we don't know we didn't look at the reasons why they were euthanised and the reasons why they came in and match those. So there's a whole data set there if anyone wants to do another study. Megan's cleaned it all up and it's all sitting there to answer some of your questions.
Lots of you people with free time. So we've got one more quick question.
I just wanted to follow on from that and ask, how were you actually identifying what breeds were in the shelter? Is it just visual breed identification, or?
It was, yeah, so it was very visual. This was all based off the RSPCA's Shelter Mate program, and they had all of that data, and that's what they gave us. So I guess for owner surrenders, if the owner said this is a Staffy cross cattle dog, then they would have recorded that. But if it had come in and they weren't certain, it would have definitely been visual identification.
Okay. Yeah, so it's probably worth also bearing in mind that there's a lot of studies about that's pretty infallible as well. Fallible as well.
Yeah.